Okay, welcome to episode 14 of Newy Tech People. Today we've got Cameron Owen, owner of Cyferlinx. Mate, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, James. And thanks very much for helping me be a part of Newy Tech People. It's seeing it sort of grow, and with the Newcastle tech community growing, it was like something I was very keen to be a part of. So thank you.
Mate, good. I think we've got very similar sort of philosophies from building this community. I think they're coming at it from different angles, but we've got a similar goal there. So, mate, speaking of which, Cyferlinx, mate, give us a quick overview of what is Cyferlinx, how's that come about?
So Cyferlinx, I guess, was a little pet project. It started off with me. So I'm a coder. I'm a computer engineer from the University of Newcastle.
Yeah.
And it sort of started off with me trying to get myself out there as a coder. So about 2 years ago, I started my own business as an engineering consultant, looking for work specifically in probably industrial software, control systems, and lower level stuff. And I said, well, maybe as a starting point, I need to try and sell myself a little bit, especially when you start a company. Your company doesn't have any experience, so all you can really sell is the experience of the company's employees, which was just myself to begin with. And so I said, well, how can I do that? And I started off creating a personal website with all my projects, with predominantly my projects being code. And what happened was, it took me a little while to build in the beginning, and I had a few projects on there, and I sort of forgot about it as I got little bits of work, and then I came back to it, and all of a sudden it was out of date because I've been written more code since. Even in my spare time, like not necessarily code I was being paid to write, but code that I was just tinkering with, all the fun stuff that you might do, home automation, helping Nen create a medical alert or something like that. These are all little things that I tinker with. And I could see all the code that then I was pushing to the online services that I save code to, like my GitHub and my Bitbucket profiles, was building, but my resume wasn't reflecting it. And so I said, well, it would be cool if there was if I had a website, if my website was just pulling that data in.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, maybe other people have this same problem as well. And especially because it's not just the places you push your code, but the places, other things that represent you as a coder as well, like maybe your rankings on Top Coder. So one of the other things I like to do in my spare time is the online coding competitions.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it'd be cool if that was on my resume as well, or at least to give some sort of technical overview, ranking or what my Stack Overflow stats look like, to show that I was engaged in the community of actually helping other coders answer their questions. And so I guess that's where Cyferlinx started. It was that concept of, well, I'd love to build a platform where it just pulls that information automatically, and I can just send that as an automated resume to people. Yeah. And then I thought, well, maybe other people would like that. So that's sort of where it started for me, and then that's basically what Cyferlinx is, I guess.
So a real-time CV, right?
A real-time CV. It's sort of staying up to date, just lets you code.
Yeah. So
lets coders code, and then people can then go and recruit from that. So effectively, recruiters recruit.
Recruiters recruit. Yeah. Well, it's a very real problem, right? Okay, developers are one of the fastest growing industries, and hardest to find group of people, and it's probably not a developer's forte to be marketing themselves. Yeah, so if you're building a platform to allow them to do that, it solves a real need, right?
Yeah, and I think coding is sort of becoming the next blue collar job. It's especially as things start to automate and people start to panic about, automation's replacing jobs. I think it's just creating jobs in different areas. And I think nearly any business that's trying to stay relevant in some way needs a programmer for some aspect, whether you're developing your own products, software-based products, or you're just trying to advertise and keep up to date with a relevant website that has good SEO. All these things are all touching on some form of programmer being involved in that loop.
Yeah, I don't disagree. At all. And I think, I've spoken to a number of different startup founders, and the fact that, you're scratching your own itch, it seems to be, one of the best places to come from when, launching a business is you're building something to, fulfill your own need.
Yeah, I think having the problem definitely helps you understand the problem better. I guess from the Cyferlinx point of view, it sort of forks off into the problem that coders have and then a little bit of the problem recruiters have.
Yeah.
And even then starting to run my own company and needing to employ people as the workload started to increase, I started to then feel the problem of the recruiter side of it as well. So Cyferlinx sort of seemed like the perfect solution.
Yeah.
And it was also always just intended to be something just for the community. And I always said in the beginning, it'd be a success if it was just a really good encapsulation of the Newcastle tech community. Like it didn't have to go any further than that for me.
Yeah.
So I was always just looking to find and help build the Newcastle tech community.
Yeah.
And so then I can't remember what point we met in the process, but then with you being a recruiter, I was sort of then started to become more interested in the other side of it, listening to your problems. So
Yeah.
there's I guess the two itches that I'm scratching, both one as a coder and one as a recruiter for myself there.
Yeah, there's and facing that challenge of a two-sided marketplace is really tough, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think, hey, from a recruitment perspective, finding developers is a challenge. Finding quality developers is a challenge for a lot of companies, not only recruiters, but trying to decipher through a quality of a developer.
Yeah.
One of the things that a lot of developers, like really high quality developers, are similar to yourself, is somebody that actually loves code, right? And in their own time, they're involved in the community, or they're writing code in their own projects, so they're not just a 9 to 5. Hey, I go to work and knock out what I need to knock out for the day, but they are people involved and they're active in the community. And if you're bringing in these multiple sources and helping sort of pull that together, I think that's a real good indicator of a quality developer, right?
Yeah, and that's what I think Cyferlinx really surfaces, is that type of the developer, that developer that's writing code in their own time and building up their personal profile, and Cyferlinx really helps advertise that aspect of it. And as you know, as a recruiter, one of the difficult things probably to do is decipher, what is just someone telling you they can do something and who is someone that can actually do something. And so that was another problem that I was trying to address with the platform there.
I agree. And it's a need that's there at the moment, and it'll be a growing need, as you said, as more and more companies are looking to hire programmers or devs, and that they don't have experience in hiring that type of talent. It's a very real challenge, right?
Yes.
So if you can provide a couple of good indicators to say, hey, it might not be a perfect science, but hey, here's 4 or 5 indicators that say this person's relatively strong in what they do. It makes it an easier bet on that person, right?
Yeah. And for me, one of the big indicators of someone that is good at what they do is that they love it.
Yep.
And the indicator that they love it is they do it a lot, especially in their spare time. And so that was, I guess, one of the key things I was trying to surface there. So
Mate, I completely agree. What, mate, tell you, obviously, scratch your own itch got you into this. And how did it come about? It was you were building this in your own time while consulting out to other companies with your own business.
Yeah. So I started. I guess it started off with, like I said, the initial. All right, I'd like to do it just for myself, to try and sell myself a little bit as a program initially, and then it sort of grew as I told people what I was doing. They said, "Oh, actually, I can see the value." Firstly, from the coders I was talking to, "Oh yeah, that'd be really handy." I'd sign up. Initially, I got I'd sign up if you had this integration, or that. Tell me when you integrated with this. And so I sort of went off the trail of, well, I need to. All right, I'm integrating with GitHub and Stack Overflow right now because that suits me. But I only use Bitbucket, I only use GitLab. Yeah. So I started adding to it, and then over time it sort of built. And I got to the point where I guess my core skill set is technical, but I then wanted it to appeal to people as well. I don't consider myself super artistic when it comes to picking nice colours and good fonts. So then I went and started talking to the Newcastle Business Centre. So someone referred me to the Newcastle Business Centre, and they were able to help me develop it, I guess, for more as a product. Yeah. Despite the fact that it's actually free for coders, free for recruiters. Yeah. It doesn't really have a revenue stream. As yet. There will always be free for coders. That's one of the important aspects of the platform. I think you see it all too often, developers getting screwed over by the big guys. So was one of the key goals for me for this platform was free for coders. It helps you advertise to develop recruiters all over the world.
Yeah.
But so it started off with that journey then with the business center. So they helped me, I guess, think about the value that I was trying to provide to developers and recruiters and what features might help both markets, how to assess that.
Yeah.
And so that's, I guess, how it turned into what it is today.
Yeah, I think probably the more information that you can provide in there as opposed to a LinkedIn, right? So, hey,
Yeah.
I'm a recruiter. I know that some of the challenges that developers face being hit up day in, day out. Hey, here's a new opportunity. Hey, here's a new opportunity because a company or a poor quality recruiter has, keyword searched and found, hey, you did .NET at some point in your career.
Yeah.
Hey, would you like this .NET role? And they've evolved since then, and they're now doing something maybe not completely different, but hey, it's no longer relevant. They're no longer hands in writing code day in, day out, but they're still being hit up by this. So I think if you are able to sort of provide some information, more information about what this person's doing, what their really talents and interests are, they're going to get more accurate messaging, right?
Yes.
And I think that's a problem a lot of devs, but tech guys in general face on LinkedIn is spammy type messages that have no interest. Whereas if you can really customize that, hey, I'm looking for XYZ, and you can find out, a bit more about that person, how active they are, you can tailor something and it can provide value on both sides.
Yeah. And so I guess some of the key components of what we've done with Cyferlinx is, firstly, if you don't want to display your email or your contact information to the wider world, you don't have to, but there's still the option to message through the platform. Yeah. So if, as a recruiter, if you come across someone that's maybe hiding their information, you can still get a message through to them.
Yeah.
But this is just in relation to your spamming, like getting spammed as a recruiter.
Yeah.
So I guess from the coder side of things, we allow all programmers to be contacted, but without giving up too much of their personal information if they don't want to. You can enable it if you wish, but the other side of it was that and one of the issues I guess I came across with LinkedIn was things like endorsements.
Yeah.
So
they're just rubbish.
Someone saw me with a digital camera once at an event, and all of a sudden I've been endorsed for photography.
Yeah.
It's like I don't need people contacting me about photography now. Yeah. So the point of Cyferlinx, in compared to say something like LinkedIn, was you don't actually go on and fill out your resume in the sense that you can just write whatever you want. You don't hit a point in the sign up where it asks you how many years experience you have in something. Instead, it says sync and integration that shows that you have that experience. Yeah. And I think the future of it, especially if you're coming in as a developer, or if you're just at high school or university and you want to get a job in or be above your competition in that sense, you need to be building your online repos in your spare time. Even little things, just anything you do, tinkering, writing code, and then Cyferlinx will pull that in and really sell that for you.
Well, I think that's a much better indicator of somebody's success or somebody's capability than years of experience as well, right?
Yes.
Years of experience, especially in the dev world, isn't necessarily the best indicator of success.
Yeah.
I've met some of the best devs who have a couple of years experience, but extremely active, extremely passionate, as opposed to somebody that's been doing the role for a hell of a lot longer, but got to that stage where they're a 9-to-5er and they bang out the same code that they were writing 5 years ago, and then they're not moving with the languages and they're not moving with the times. Mm-hmm. That years of experience isn't necessarily the best indicator.
Yes. Yeah, and I agree, and I guess that's what we're really trying to sell with it, and that's what you see from the data if you know how to interpret what you're looking at, and I think where Cyferlinx sits in the recruitment process is that early stage where you're just trying to cull down those 1,000 applicants or whatever. Yeah. If they've got the Cyferlinx profile, it can really show you a detailed technical overview of what they're currently doing. Yeah. To get you onto the next stage, I think. There's still spots in the recruitment process that Cyferlinx doesn't help with. I think you still need to interview someone. I think you still need to know what they're like, whether they work in a team or not. Yeah. But we're definitely helping with that early stage of the process.
At least the technical capability, right?
Yes.
There's so much more than just the technical capability, but if you can get that technical capability, that at least, as you said, it allows you to narrow it and then find out, hey, what are this person's motivators? Because especially from a dev's perspective, the game's changed. The devs have the power now, and the programmers have the power. The companies don't. As a company or a recruiter, you better have a really good, selling point on why somebody should come work with you or on a project that you're doing, because devs have multiple opportunities. They're going to be hit up from multiple angles. And it's like, hey, what can you offer? What can you offer me, right? And dollars isn't always it, right?
No, that's right. Yeah, and actually, Stack Overflow did a survey where money was, I'm not even sure if it was in the top 4 things that would want you that you'd want to switch careers for. So it's really interesting that it is about the work, especially for the good programmers. It is about what they're doing, what they're writing, and where they're burying their code in.
And then as a company, your role is to offer them something that they find exciting or they find interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So building this, then you built it from scratch yourself.
Yes.
Have you got funding? How have you funded this? How have you done this? Has it been a full-time project, side project, and turned into full-time? How's that?
So it's self-funded. So we don't have any investors. We don't have anyone pulling our strings, telling us we need to quickly generate this revenue or that revenue from the platform, which gives me the freedom to be able to say things like it can stay free for the coders. And that is the point of it. And it's sort of, we're building it for the coders. We're answering to the coders, not investors or anyone. I just started consulting under my own brand called SAFI, which is short for Software and Programmable Hardware Integration.
Yeah.
And as I did start to generate work over different projects, I built that with a couple of guys I went to uni with. And so started off with the 3 of us, and we just knocking over projects, consulting, writing software. But we always wanted to develop a product, and Cyferlinx was sort of that product that came out of that. And we just were able to generate the money we needed to build the platform from consulting. And so that's where we sit at the moment. It's just all off our own backs.
Nice. Very nice. What's the biggest challenge?
Right now, I'd say the biggest challenge for us is getting, not only, I guess, onboarding coders, trying to get coders on the platform, but then getting feedback from them as well. My understanding, it's a pretty universal problem, getting feedback in general. I definitely know for a fact that when someone asks me for a survey, I might fill out 1 in 10.
Yeah.
So, but it's the feedback that really builds it, makes it, that makes the platform what you want it to be as someone that's using it. That would be one of the biggest challenges we have right now, and onboarding the programmers. And I guess at this point, what I want to make clear about Cyferlinx is, it has the intent to be a platform for people to recruit coders, but in my eyes, it's actually a bit more than that. And right now, specifically for Newcastle, it's a way to collect and assess Newcastle's tech talent. So for people that are listening, if you're a programmer that's not necessarily looking for work, you don't need to get hired, you don't feel like you need to be on a recruitment platform, I'm still looking for you to sign up, because I want you to come in, connect your third parties, connect your GitHubs, connect your repos, your Stack Overflows, your top coder rankings, whatever, connect it so we can see what technical talent's in Newcastle.
Yeah.
Because with the Newcastle tech community and the way it's growing, I believe we can use that information to attract bigger tech companies into Newcastle and help that tech community grow. It's like a chicken and the egg.
Yeah, mate.
The tech community needs the work and the recruiters need the coders. So it's
mate, very similar to what I'm trying to do with the podcast, right? Is highlight some of the tech talent that's going on in Newcastle, help, ideally drag some more companies to Newcastle. Say, hey, we do have some talent here. You can legitimately build a strong tech team here in Newcastle.
Yeah, and that's what I love, and I guess that's why I'm interested in it, and that's why I'm so thankful to be part of this, is because the values align. Our values align so closely in that regard that there is a big tech community in Newcastle.
Yeah.
I just think to some extent it's dormant, like there's only a few of us that are sort of popping our heads out of our rooms and trying to interact, and I'm trying to collect those people on Cyferlinx, but I want to get more, and I know there's more here.
Yeah, that's definitely, mate. Definitely. I think it's a growing community. It's growing. It's becoming more and more active. So I think that's, mate, it's any two-sided marketplace is really difficult, right?
Yes.
But you're making some solid progress there. So
yes,
yeah, it's good.
And trying to hit, and it's like we were saying before, the chicken and the egg. Well, with Cyferlinx, so there's a jobs component where you can go on and have a look at local jobs that are being advertised. And in the next release or the next stage of the platform, we've opened it up to recruiters, so you can actually go on, sign up as a recruiter instead of a coder.
Yeah.
Put your company information on and start advertising jobs for free.
Yeah.
So we're trying to also attract more coders onto the platform.
Yeah. I think, mate, as long as you've made it very clear, it's coders first, right?
Yes.
I don't think any coders signing up to a platform to be hit up by a recruiter more frequently, right?
That's right.
That's the biggest pain point, from my understanding, from a candidate's perspective with LinkedIn, is being hit up with spammy type messages from recruiters. Recruitment industry gets a really bad name because of that a lot of time. I don't think, building a platform where people are going to come on here and you're going to get hit up by recruiters, with spammy messages is a strong selling point. No. But the fact that you're coming at it from, hey, we're a dev first or dev first, coders first platform. It's always free for the coders. There's benefits in it for the coders in comparing themselves against other people and becoming a working profile or a living, breathing CV of who they are, what they're capable of, is a greater sell, right?
Yeah. Yes. And you're 100% right. It's like that's where it started, and that's what it primarily is.
Yeah.
And just going back to what I said about just because you don't need a job right now doesn't mean you shouldn't sign up.
No. Because
we're trying to find out, and specifically in Newcastle, we're really focused. And like I said, the platform for me would be a huge success if I had all of Newcastle's tech talent. Everything after that for me is gravy. So that's really the focus of what the platform is and what it's trying to do right now.
Very nice. Mate, you've mentioned, multiple different sources there, people that are active in programming outside of their, just 9 to 5. Mate, if a dev's, starting out, or what you're looking for from an educational perspective, what are you seeing as the best educational resources for devs?
So I guess there's a couple of different ways a dev's profile can be broken down, especially on the platform. One of them is just writing code, and so it's the project side of it, which is demonstrating your experience in writing software. So code you're pushing to GitHub and Bitbucket and whatnot. And for me, one of the things I've actually quite liked, especially when you're trying to get onto new technologies, is some of the platforms like Udemy and Stack Skills as far as technologies. They're really handy just to jump on. One of the biggest resources, so when I started building this platform, I wanted to jump on a web dev technology that seemed to be gaining momentum, and that at the time was Angular.
Yeah.
And
continuing to grow.
Yes. And I think, I jumped onto it just when it became Angular 2.
Yeah.
Now it's Angular 7 or something. And I then needed a back end, but I didn't want to waste a lot. Like, there's only 3 of us working on this platform.
Yeah.
And it was in our spare time. Like, we're making money during the day. We're coming home at night. It's like, it's not 40 hours a week that we're spending on this. Well, in some instances it was, but it was like
40 hours during the middle
afterwards.
Of the night.
Yeah. So I wanted then a back end that was really easy to use, that just sort of took care of a lot of things. So Firebase popped up. So they're the 2 web technologies. So going through YouTube and Google and looking around, I found this really good resource called Angular Firebase. There's this guy that was producing free online content. So I guess just a step away from the paid stuff where Udemy and Stack Skills are sort of paid content.
Yeah.
I found that you could also find out really good information just by going through YouTube and looking at tutorials and demos that people were making as well.
Yeah.
So, and for anyone that's getting into Angular development or Angular and Firebase development, I'd highly recommend him actually, because his content is free and it's excellent. Like, he covers everything you need to know to build a good website.
Nice. Mate, there's so much free content out there now. Quality free content as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. And then, so you'd say, hey, obviously there's a couple of different angles there from, different educational standpoints to stay up to date. Baseline, you did a uni degree, didn't you?
Yes. Yep.
You've mentioned that already, mate. What's your thoughts on, what was your experience like with your university degree?
I had a really good experience. So, especially going to the university in Newcastle, I did a Bachelor of Engineering Computer, which is a relatively new degree. It's not like you got the pretty much some of the core ones that have been around forever, like electrical, civil, mechanical.
Yeah.
And computer engineering sort of came out of electrical, where you wanted to be, you liked electrical engineering, but the low voltage side of it, and you wanted to get some software engineering thrown in there. So that's what computer engineering was when they introduced it. And that sounded like something that appealed to me a lot. Yeah. I wasn't interested in power transmission or building big substations or anything like that. I was interested in circuit boards and microcontrollers. And so I did that degree, and I really loved it because the content was exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
But if I had to say what the real value I got out of doing a university degree was probably that they taught you to think like an engineer, and you sort of learnt how to learn more efficiently.
Yeah.
So coming from high school, where maybe towards year 11 and 12 you get put on your own to some extent. You have to do your own exams, obviously, but a lot of it becomes a bit more independent, but you can still get a lot of guidance. Yeah. You go to university, and then it's really like you've got to do it now, like you're really on your own. And of course there's lectures and things you can go and see, but largely you've got to find the content, you've got to learn it. You're the only one that's going to sit the exams that get you through. So as far as the university degree goes, I think there's a lot of value in it, but it's not necessarily the technical content. Like, I wouldn't go to university just because I wanted to learn how to program in a certain way. No. You really go there to learn how to learn, and more importantly with engineering degrees, because the lecturers there are often from the industry, you learn how to think like an engineer. And I definitely went in, I guess, my problem solving, the way I would try and solve problems before I went to university was a kind of lazy way. It was like just try and get to a solution. Yeah. Where by the time I came out of university, you really sit back and think about the bigger picture. That's probably what I got out of it.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a really solid foundation, right? I think that's a really common theme with a lot of people in the tech space, is that the learning, providing a foundation on how to think, how to learn.
Yes.
And giving sort of that greater focus. It's like the programming languages will change. They change quite frequently.
Yes.
Right? The requirements are changing day to day for, maybe not day to day, but really frequently on, what is the most up to date, programming language, or what's going to be best for a certain scenario. And I think if you get the right dev or the right programmer, or even you can extend that outside of just devs, but the right tech talent that understands how to learn, how to adapt, being agile, being able to move with that and move quickly. If you get somebody that can pick up that learning side of it, they'll adapt to a new scenario rather than somebody that's just, hey, they're hot with the code that's most hot at the moment. So I think that that ability to learn, the ability to understand is that's really one of the core skills, right?
Yeah, that's I think in my opinion that's what you get out of it. That's what I got out of university anyway. It was how to learn effectively.
Yeah.
And quickly. In a lot of cases, you have to pick things up pretty quickly. And don't get me wrong, I did a lot of courses where there was like very specific technical content that I was like, great, I'm glad that we covered this. We did some cool projects. Yeah. But if that's just what you're looking for, you can do that with the internet. Yeah. No problem. But be able to be put out of your comfort zone and figure out, all right, maybe just copying notes off a board isn't really going to get me through this. I've got to figure out a new way to understand this, and then that's what for me, that's what university taught me.
There's also that ability to learn and the ability to, as the bit you just mentioned there, think outside the box, right? that's the differentiator between good quality tech talent and not at the moment. It's like, hey, you can find and you can outsource offshore a lot of coding for the sake of coding, right?
Yes.
And that part will start to automate itself as well. But understanding, why am I writing this code? What's this code, doing at the end? How's the user interacting with this? What is it that I'm building, and how does that affect whether the business or end user or whatever that is? That's the side of it that really differentiates somebody that's quality and somebody that's, can be replicated or can be, just I think taken out of the process in times to come.
Well, and with reference, I guess, to some of the outsourcing you can do, and you can send it anywhere and it's cheap. But the problem is that works really well if you know exactly what you need.
Yeah.
Because if you ask for a green button on a page, you'll get a green button on a page. But when you get it, you might realize that's not actually what the client or the customer or whoever you're trying to fulfill with your software actually wanted.
Correct. I completely agree, mate. And that's the thinking part of it that comes to it. Hey, it can be done, it can be coded, and it can be done cheaply, but some solid thinking behind it. That's what you're paying for, right?
Yes.
And I think that's a key differentiator with good quality talent.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
And it'll only become more so in the future, I think.
Yeah. It's less about, can I make this in a certain web technology or programming language, and more about that user experience. What am I trying to build, and what are the values? And that doesn't necessarily get answered by some sort of code machine that you might be able to outsource.
Correct. It's I think it's a solid thought process from an educational perspective. It's a solid foundation, how to learn, how to think, and then overlay that with some some things you can do very cheaply or for free on the internet. If, staying up to date with the most relevant technologies.
And you have to. It's not like I can just drop back into university to keep up to date on that technical talent. You've got to be on the internet all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Mate, outside of that, what other educational resources do you read? Any books? Any great books that you recommend to people at the moment?
Yeah, I guess I do listen to and read books, but I think probably less tech-based ones. I think that's sort of how I get away from it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think coming in when I started trying to create my own business, I read a good book called The E-Myth, which sort of broke down what one would need to be to actually try and run a successful business and things you have to think about. So that's one that I'd recommend for anyone that's, I guess, looking to start there or has a small business and struggling with it. It puts a lot of really high level stuff in perspective, and at the very least it's a really good read. It takes you through some other people's experiences and their stories. And then stuff I listen to, I guess it's even higher level again from a more philosophical point, is the Alan Watts, or the old Alan Watts lectures. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's just a philosopher, and he talks about stuff like what happens when you die and stuff like that. It's a bit deeper. Like, it's like really sort of like you sit down and like, that's
it's great to force yourself to think. I love that sort of stuff, mate.
Yeah,
I read a heap of in and around philosophy. I think the understanding of human behaviour and different thought processes is I find that extremely interesting.
So yeah, he has one particular podcast. Oh, they're not podcasts, I guess. They're his old lectures. So he's from way back, but they release his lectures as podcasts. And one particular one, he says, someone in his lecture says, well, what's life like after you die? And his answer simply was the same as it was before you were born. And it was like, it seems like such a simple answer, but when you think about it, you're like, oh crap, it's like, yeah, that's probably dead on, right? It's like, what was it like? So that it's those, I guess, as far as things I listen to and do, books and podcasts and stuff like that, that's probably more of the ilk. It's less tech based for me. It's my way to get away.
Yeah, sweet. Mate, if you had to wind it back then, is there any sort of key learnings, 1 or 2 points that you would say, hey, before starting a business, that you would tell yourself?
Yeah, it's probably a few key things I picked up along the way that in a lot of ways I was probably lucky that I got the advice before I made the mistake, but then still things that I'd tell myself way back when. One of them was probably I'd tell my younger version of myself to think about what I would want to do if money was no obstacle. That one, and you hear it asked a lot, but I think that's, as a young person, it's not necessarily something you think of really hard about.
No.
You're just thinking about, all right, I'm 14 or 15 now, go get my job at Macca's, and then because that's going to help me get experience, I can get my job at Target, and then I'll have some cash to go to university to get the next job at But if I could go back and say, well, what would you do? What would you really do if money was no obstacle? And I think that would inspire the thought process, which eventually, as I grew older, came about, was that, well, I certainly wouldn't want to spend my whole life helping someone else accomplish their dreams. It was about, I want to try and do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so that ultimately led to, well, I need to start my own business, and then I can be in control of that. And so that was probably one of the key bits of advice that I give. I went back. If I could turn back time, knowing that the timeline was going to stay identical up until this point, I'd probably tell myself that Djokovic was going to win his 7th Australian Open, and then bank on that, and then I'd be cashed up now, and I wouldn't have to worry about all this working to run the...
It's pretty handy. Yeah, I read something recently. It was like, hey, make a list of 5 things, 5 things you most enjoy doing, and then make a list of the things you're doing every day, and then sort of have a look at whether there's any overlap there.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, if there's absolutely no overlap with what you want to be doing every day and what you actually are doing every day, then something's got to change, right?
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. I haven't heard that one, but it'd be interesting to write down. But I think even defining, to some extent, what you really want is difficult as well.
That's super difficult.
Yeah, it's like, write 5 things that you just want to do, like all day, every day. It's like, that's actually not super, like, and I think on the outset you could...
Mate, it's the way I sort of read it was like, it's as simple as, hey, I'd like to surf every day, or I'd like to meditate every day, or I'd like to go for a run every day, or I'd like to have beers with my friends every day. It's just like, okay, could you actually be doing that?
Yeah.
Maybe you could do that with your current job. Maybe you've got to change a few things. Maybe you've got to sleep a little less, or maybe, hey, you've got to revamp your whole lifestyle. And, it was just an interesting point, I think.
I think for me to sit down and say, oh, let's say I'd like to surf all day, every day for a period maybe.
Yeah. And
then you'd be like, all right, that's enough surfing for me.
Yeah.
So it's like to think about it in a way that actually gives meaningful output would be to think about, all right, what do I want to do that I just really enjoy? I think if you just do those things that you really enjoy doing, then ultimately you'll get paid to do it because you'll become good at it. You just naturally become good at the things you enjoy doing. I think that's as simple as I could put it.
Yeah. When you wheel that back to like what you're doing with Cyferlinx, right? And with devs, for devs in general, it's just like, hey, a lot of devs have power now. If they're not working on projects that they're interested in, if they're not working in a company that they feel valued in, they should be having a look around because they've got plenty of options, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
And then for yourself, it's obviously like, hey, I want to be able to do, have some flexibility and have some control of your time, so you build your own company around that. So
yes,
that's interesting, man.
But it's and then you quickly find out that starting your own company, especially when it's services based, is not all that different to having a job. So then the concept of Cyferlinx started growing from there. I think the goal would be to have the product make the money rather than the services side of it.
Yeah.
But it's been an interesting process, and I definitely wouldn't change anything, that's for sure. With reference to going back in time, there's probably not a lot that I'd change.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty happy with the steps. Like, there's probably some steps I could shortcut thinking back about it, but then again, what I learned from those I'd probably just be making those mistakes later.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's a good way of looking at it. Right? Mistakes. Hey, if they're learnings, they're not really a mistake.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Mate, you're obviously now building your own tech company, still doing some consulting. Mate, what productivity tools? What do you use? What sort of softwares? Productivity? What do you use on a daily basis or weekly basis to help keep yourself, humming along?
So I guess if I looked at like the most critical things and flowed down, we use Slack as the core communication tool between all of us, and what we link that into is we've linked our GitHub into that.
Yeah.
So obviously, as we're developing, we're pushing our code to GitHub.
Mm-hmm.
That pumps notifications into Slack. So I use that as a really easy way to see progress that's happening. Or someone's just pushed this feature, that feature. Give me a quick overlook. And then the other side of that is, all right, well, before we write the code, let's think about what we need to do. And so I use Trello to actually organize the parcels of work that we sit down as a team. We have a meeting for an hour at the start of each week. Let's look at what we've done and what we've got to do. Yeah. And we basically draft up a week's worth of what I call Trello tickets.
Yeah.
And then that's how I guess I'm managing the workflow.
Nice.
And then tracking the progress of that through the pushes of the GitHub repo, and all that flows into Slack. So Slack's like the core.
Yeah, Slack's the core with GitHub and then Trello feeding in, right?
Yep.
Nice, mate.
So that'd be I guess a brief overview of the technology stack for the productivity of the development of Cyferlinx.
Awesome. Anything from a personal perspective, anything you use from a personal perspective outside of that?
Just like in my day-to-day, trying to remember to feed the dog, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do use Slack as well. It has a neat reminder feature on it.
Yeah.
But then it's just, for me, I don't try and waste too much time looking into the best things for productivity from a personal point of view. So I got my iPhone, iOS. Yeah. It just comes in with the reminders. I've got the Outlook app on there from emails.
Yeah.
Pretty much what's basically fed to me, I just use.
Yeah.
And for those kind of things, I guess so much of my life is around the business and the products I'm trying to develop within it.
Yeah.
That the personal life and the business life really blur up a bit as well.
If you're productive at work, you're productive in life, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, mate. You mentioned it before. You mentioned, hey, success for Cyferlinx would look like having the entire Newcastle tech community on board. You're obviously passionate around Newcastle tech community. You've even gone to the point of starting your own meetup.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about Blast Furnace.
So the Blast Furnace, I mentioned earlier that I got the business centre to help me, build Cyferlinx. So it wasn't just some crappy website that I thought was cool. It actually had and I got just to diverge a little, I got Luke Burness. He actually helped me do the user interface design, and because I wasn't artistic enough to accomplish it myself.
He's a super talented dude.
Yes, very talented, and for what he costs, he's great value. So he, if you actually go and have a look at the platform, that's what you're seeing, or to some extent, I must admit sometimes I cut corners because it's too technically difficult to make something specifically look like he designed, but it's largely his design there. So the business centre was helping me build it. And while I was in there working with them, they said, do you want to do a project with us? Because we're interested in helping entrepreneurs understand tech. So they're getting a lot of people coming in. The business centre is where you go if you've got an idea and you want to help maybe develop it into a company, or they have a lot of tech. I'm trying to think of the word.
Advisors.
It's like accelerator programs, I guess, but they don't take equity.
Yeah.
So they're like an accelerator that doesn't take equity. They're really cool.
Yeah.
And so they're getting a lot of people coming in day by day saying, I guess the classic is, I've got an idea for an app. And without understanding the technology, it can be very easy to be screwed over by people that charge exorbitant amounts of money for things that are probably rather simple to build.
Yeah.
So the business centre came up and said, well, we'd like to help we'd like to give these entrepreneurs somewhere to go to learn how to code or mingle with people, other developers, so they can maybe get someone on their team locally. And so we came up with the concept called the Blast Furnace. So the Blast Furnace meetup is basically an interactive coding or tech-based meetup. And the concept of it is, and always was, it's a free event that caters for all levels of programming. And we really want both. We want the experts and we want the people that are just looking to get started, looking to play with something. And basically the premise of the meetup is you come, there's a small introduction for 15 minutes at the beginning, and then you get to pick one of two streams for an hour. If you're an intermediate to advanced coder, we run little coding competitions, and we go basically head to head with each other, little 10-minute sessions, and you accrue points which go to the Blast Furnace leaderboard, which naturally sync to your Cyferlinx account. Yeah. So there's a Blast Furnace integration on your Cyferlinx account as well. And so Blast Furnace is a really good indication of the Newcastle tech talent. There's a second stream, all right, you either don't know how to code or maybe you only know a little bit and you don't feel confident doing the competitions. We run a learn to code session, and each event is themed around a particular technology or language.
Yeah.
For example, we did one on NativeScript mobile apps. So NativeScript technology allows you to develop hybrid or cross-platform mobile apps, Android, iOS. So if you've done a bit of NativeScript before or just web dev in general, then you'd go and do the coding comps with us for the first hour of the event.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd switch over, and that one, I believe, Mudbath presented. So we have a presenter that then presents on the theme of the event.
Yeah.
So those 2 hours run in parallel. At the end of that, we have a pizza break, so you get free food and drinks. Then the last hour and a half is you actually all come together and you can group up, or you can work by yourself, and we try and work through some challenges based on that technology stack or language or whatever the theme is for the night.
Nice.
So that's an overview, I guess, of the structure of the Blast Furnace, and what we're trying to do here is find and bring together the tech talent, but also encourage more. So if you're like on the brink of wanting to learn how to code, but you don't really know where to start, or you just want to meet people that can code and just hang out, eat some pizza, do some code together, that's what the Blast Furnace is.
Yeah, nice. What's so how long does it go for then?
It's standard sort of meetup time, 2.5 hours, so 6:30.
Yeah.
We're running them now once a month, every second Thursday.
Nice.
And they go till 9 o'clock.
Yeah, cool. And where are they held?
At the business centre on corner of Dick and Bull, 6 Dick Street. I think it's the exact address, 6 Dick Street for the business centre.
Yeah, nice.
So the business centre basically sponsor the event by providing us with the venue for free, and then we provide the pizza and drinks. All you've got to do is bring a laptop, and you get provided the Wi-Fi and somewhere to sit and charge your computer. And yeah, I guess it's slightly different to most meetups in the sense that it is interactive. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, practical.
Get
right?
in there.
Yeah. And I like the angle of both. You know, there's something for somebody more advanced and something for somebody that's looking to get into it. Because if we can get more of those people that are looking to get into it along that path, I think Newcastle will be in a much strong position from a dev perspective.
Yes, 100%.
Nice, mate. Nice. And why Newcastle in general then? Why are you so passionate about Newcastle?
Newcastle for me it's almost like the perfect storm of it's not the country, but it's not the city. It's like a big little town, and anyone who lives here would know it's not like going into the city where it's bedlam.
Yeah.
It's packed, and I know we're getting less and less car parks, but it's it's not the chaos of bumper to bumper as much. And there's a lot of industry here. There's a lot of work, and I think it will grow. And I think people will realise that this is the place to be. And I've just always liked it. Coming from, so I grew up in Tamworth, and it was like coming to a big country town. So that's why I came here for university. Like that, never left. It's just there's enough going on, but it's not too busy. That to me sums up Newcastle.
Yeah, nice. Hey, is there anything else you'd like to share with the Newy Tech People audience?
probably nothing I haven't covered, but really just to reiterate that if you're a programmer or a coder, even if you're not looking for work, look, if you can get on the platform and sync some of the integrations, you'll become part of that
Community.
tech community that we're trying to use that information now to then go, hey, look, everyone in Newcastle has what you need. Get some of those big companies, those bigger tech companies here, and continue building that. So that's probably the main message I really like to get across, is not to think, oh, it's just a recruitment platform. I'm not interested. I'm not looking for a job, so I don't need to be on there.
Yeah.
And especially if you're an experienced developer, see if you can get along to one of the blast furnaces, because that's what really helps. We're getting a lot of newcomers, and we really want some more of the experienced people as well, so we can blend the two together, and naturally then we'll elevate the tech community.
Awesome. All right, thank you for your time today.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me, James.
Cheers, mate.